Welcome to the Volunteering for HOBY webinar. Today, we are teaming up with our national philanthropic partner HOBY to discuss how Phi Sigma Pi members can serve as volunteers for HOBY programs. We appreciate you attending this webinar as both HOBY and Phi Sigma Pi continue to support our shared mission and honors Hugh's legacy. If you have any questions during this webinar, you can ask them in the GoToWebinar box on your screen. There will be some polls during the webinar. During that time, you can pick one of the answers by clicking on your screen. We also have some resources in the handouts area, and we'll be posting some links in the chat box. Today we are going to be talking about a couple different topics. First, we'll be talking about some HOBY lingo. Where is HOBY? Different volunteer positions, and a little bit about the descriptions for those, time requirements, responsibilities, how to apply to be a volunteer, and then we'll have time for questions, so you can ask Sunshine anything about HOBY, and then some next steps. So to introduce myself, my name is Sarah Smith, and I am the Director of Alumni Relations and Programming for Phi Sigma Pi. I'm also a HOBY volunteer, and this year marks my 11th year volunteering for HOBY, so I definitely know the ins and outs as well of volunteering. And if you have any questions about HOBY, feel free to contact either myself, my email is there, and you can also contact Sunshine. Her and I are the lead partners for our philanthropic partnership. So I'm now going to introduce our HOBY panelists today. Sunshine Navarro-Shively is the Registration and Outreach Manager for Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership, a national leadership development organization for high school students. During her 15-plus years in the nonprofit sector, she has spent more than half of that time advancing educational and leadership opportunities for youth. For nearly 6 years at HOBY, she has been recruiting students and developing new outreach strategies to increase program participation. Sunshine also develops partnerships with other organizations, like PSP, that highlight the positive contributions of youth to their communities and our society. Sunshine is a mother of 2 small girls, 5 and 8, whom she aims at raising to be strong, confident women who lift others up through kindness and compassion. She earned her undergraduate degree in anthropology from UCLA and a master's in nonprofit management at Antioch University, Los Angeles. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sunshine.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining the webinar. I believe we're going to start off with a poll. And Sarah, do you want to take that, actually? So I just want to gauge a little bit where the tone of this webinar. So first, I'd like to ask, what is your experience with HOBY? And please select one of the following. I am an alum, I'm a volunteer, or I'm a newbie and here to learn. So go ahead and type in your answers, please.
Okay. So we have 0 HOBY alumni on with us today. 17% are volunteers and 83% are newbies and here to learn.
Wonderful. So for those who are already volunteers, please forgive me. I'll probably go through a few things that you may already know, but I'm definitely going to share other information that hopefully everybody can have a takeaway from or learn something from. So the first thing that I do want to mention about HOBY is that we love acronyms. So these are the most common acronyms we have for our high level, also known as key volunteer positions. And I'm going to start off with the DNP, the Director of National Programs. Since you guys are mostly newbies, I'm not going to take the time to ask questions and see if you guys know what the answers are. I'm just going to go ahead and explain what each of these positions mean. So the Director of National Programs is the only paid staff member in this structure. The Director of National Programs is a regional director in charge of several states and seminar, and they're in charge of the volunteers at the seminar. So basically, if I'm going to use the metaphor of an organization. So if there's a corporate structure or an organization, the DNP would be the CEO. Okay. Next, we have the Leadership Seminar Chair, and this is a volunteer position. The Leadership Seminar Chair reports directly to the DNP, but the Leadership Seminar Chair is actually the one in charge of the volunteers at the local level. The LSC manages the volunteer team and planning committees and is basically in charge of running all the operations. So if the DNP is the CEO, the LSC is probably the COO or Chief Operating Officer. The DR is the Director of Recruitment, and this is also a volunteer position who works very closely with the LSC. The DR is in charge of recruiting students for the seminar and sometimes also in charge of recruiting volunteers. The DR is typically the person who communicates most with the students and parents and is the first point of contact for external clients, meaning schools, students, school counselors, whereas the LSC is the point of contact for volunteers and our partners. But the DR and the LSC work very closely together. So if the LSC is the COO, the DR would be like vice COO or some sort of equivalent kind of team member, but also reporting to the LSC. And then finally, we have the CP or Corporate Board President. So in staying with the theme of a corporation, the CP or Corporate Board President would be in charge of the Board of Directors. So there is a board for each, there's a Board of Trustees for each of our states. And the CP manages the seminar's corporate board, manages the corporate board members. So that would include a vice president or a secretary and a treasurer. And basically the corporate board is there to provide fiscal oversight and manages the seminar's budget. As I mentioned, there's one corporate board per site. So for example, in California, we have 4 seminars, but there's only one corporate board that manages all 4 seminars. And that's because the corporate board works very closely with the state and makes sure that the HOBY seminars are in compliance. So that is the alphabet soup of our volunteer positions. If you guys have any questions, feel free to type it in on the side and Sarah will interrupt me and let me know if you guys have any questions before I move on. But we don't expect you to join these ranks. These are the highest level volunteers we have. So you won't be joining these ranks for a few more years, but I share them with you so that we have a common point of reference when referring to our volunteer teams. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to our programs, and we also have an alphabet soup for our programs. And we'll start off with a leadership seminar, our state leadership seminar, or LS. We typically refer to it as our leadership seminar, but in our written materials to expedite the process, we write LS, but mostly we just call it the leadership seminar. And this is our flagship program for high school sophomores. This is the 3 to 4 day leadership training that we often refer to when we're speaking about HOBY programs. It brings together more than 10,000 students across the country in 70 seminars, and they all take place in the spring. So this year, our seminars are taking place from beginning of May through the end of June. And it's basically the reason that we're all on this webinar, so we can talk to you more about our state leadership seminar. The next program is a World Leadership Congress. So our State Leadership Seminar is our domestic program, and the World Leadership Congress is our international program for rising juniors. So rising juniors are those who have completed their sophomore year but are not quite juniors yet. Since this program takes place in the summer, it's that age range. And there are more than 400 students who attend, and half of them are selected from the US and the rest are from around the world. So only students who have participated in the State Leadership Seminar may actually participate in our World Leadership Congress. While there are 70 state leadership seminars throughout the country, there's only one WLC, and that takes place July 21st to July 28th, 2018 at Loyola University, Chicago. So we do have a lot of students from around the world come in for that leadership training, and the focus of the World Leadership Congress is global leadership. Next is our CLUE, or Community Leadership Workshop. This is a one-day program partnered after the leadership seminar, and it's fully produced by HOBY volunteers and alum with local civic organizations and partners. So this is something that our alumni will typically spearhead along with a partner organization like PSP or other civic organizations like GFWC, the Greater Federation of Women's Club, Lions Clubs, Kiwanis, and this is a really good potential chapter project for you guys. It does involve a lot of volunteers and a lot of teamwork to put on this one-day event, but it's really fun and rewarding, and you get to meet a lot of students from the local community. I didn't mention it here, but the CLUE is for high school freshmen. So this is kind of an introduction to the HOBY programs, and it's, as I mentioned, it's only one day, whereas the leadership seminar is 3 to 4 days. And finally, we have Leadership for Service, and this is HOBY's volunteer service program available to all our program alumni. This allows students to log and track their volunteer hours on our special L4S website. We challenge all of our program alumni to complete at least 100 hours of community service. And if they complete 100 or more hours, they do get awarded with a HOBY Awards packet that includes the President's Volunteer Service Award. What's nice about our L4S program is that students can continue to track their volunteer service throughout their lives. So we do have HOBY volunteers who started tracking their volunteer service hours since they completed the leadership seminar, and they continue to track it even as volunteers. And if you complete 4,000 or more hours, you are, we do award you with the President's Lifetime of Service Award, which is through the President's Volunteer Service Award as well. So with the exception of the Leadership for Service program, these are all programs that you guys can volunteer for. And just a heads up, the positions for the WLC are very selective and typically require experience at the seminar level to be selected. You guys have any questions before we move on?
None so far.
Okay. All right, so we're going to move on to another poll here. And I'm just wondering, what impacts your decision to volunteer? So is it the amount of time that you have? Is it travel or the proximity to your location? Is it the cost of participating to volunteer? Sometimes there are additional costs to volunteering because the organization can't pay for all their volunteers. Is it the actual position responsibilities, or is there something else that impacts your decision to volunteer? So go ahead and take the time to just click one of those buttons, and then we'll move on.
Okay, great. So I'm going to close this. So we have 83% time, 33% travel, and 33% cost.
Wow, that's really interesting. So it looks like none of you care what you guys do for volunteering. So we could ask you to do anything and you guys will be fine as long as it's within your time schedule. I'm teasing, of course. Let's move on to the next slide. But thank you all for sharing that. So where is HOBY? If you guys visit the site phi-sigma-pi.org/service, there's a ton of information there, a lot of resources that Phi Sigma Pi is providing, as well as a link to this map. And this is a HOBY map. All the stars signify the Phi Sigma Pi chapters, and then all the other icons are for HOBY seminars. And if you look very closely and you zoom in on the map, you'll see that there are many Phi Sigma Pi chapters already where we have leadership seminars. I think that's a great opportunity for you guys to volunteer and get started. Since proximity or closeness is also a consideration for volunteering. So if you guys click on this map and click one of the icons, it actually provides more information about the leadership seminar. So for example, this is Maine. It shows you the location, the city, the dates, the registration fees for participating at the main seminar. And if you click at different icons, you'll also notice that the registration fees kind of vary per seminar. It provides the contact information for the LSC, the DR, and the DNP. So if you guys are interested in reaching out to the local team, please email the LSC and the DR and include the DNP as well. But likewise, clicking on the PSP star provides your chapter's information. So this is the same map that we use for our volunteers to have them reach out to your chapters about putting together a project or working together. I suggest visiting this map as soon as possible to find the HOBY seminar nearest you. And if you'll no longer be on campus during the HOBY seminar in your area or where your chapter is right now, consider volunteering for the HOBY seminar where you live when you return home for the summer. So, you know, some people are from out of state, and perhaps the seminar at your university is taking place during finals. Well, check out the one where you're going home, and perhaps that seminar is more convenient for you. So there are various options. You don't have to volunteer at the one that's closest to you. And when reaching out to HOBY, again, I suggest contacting the LSC and the DR and CCing the DNP, since the DNP is the one that will hold the volunteers accountable. And feel free to reach out to the DNP additionally, or you know, if you don't hear back from the team right away. Okay. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of what opportunities are available to you guys. I've broken down the opportunities to pre-seminar positions and seminar positions. So as I mentioned, the seminars are 3 to 4 days, and the seminar positions typically require a lot of time during that entire weekend. But there are lots of pre-seminar positions that are more flexible and probably more conducive to a college schedule. And I'm going to start off with the planning committee. So the planning committees take place, you know, every month or every few weeks leading up to the seminar, and the time commitment varies, but I'm going to put approximately 12 hours per month, and that's just joining the planning committee calls, perhaps doing some research, or providing input and feedback on the committee topics. So there are tons of different committees that you can join. So I would suggest finding the committee that interests you and can use your specific skills and talents. So sample committees are program committees. So the program committee will be the ones to plan out the programs, find out the best way to deliver the program, make sure there are enough speakers and panelists, and just make sure that the program runs smoothly. There's also student recruitment, so that committee will probably make calls and call schools or find the most current information for school counselors that we have. Then there's volunteer recruitment to make sure there are enough people to staff, get your friends to come out and volunteer. And then there's also the operations committee, and they're the ones who really make sure that everything is in place, and you know, they have all the food and the supplies and the training materials and the sleeping arrangements, and everything is set to go by the time of the seminar. Then there's also special projects. So you can use your special skills and talents for a specific seminar need. And the time commitment really varies on the project. And special projects include designing the program book, or designing the HOBY t-shirt, making HOBY hugs, which is really fun, or researching contact information for local schools. But if you have a specific skill or talent that you want to use for the seminar, please reach out to the LSCs and let them know what you can offer, because they might not even be thinking of something, but you know, your skill or talent can really help, and we just love new ideas and ways to be able to deliver the program in a new and exciting way. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide, but as I mentioned, feel free to type in questions if you have any questions, and then we'll answer those as we go along. So now we're going to move on to the opportunities during the seminar. And as you'll notice, facilitators and junior facilitators are highlighted in red. And these are great opportunities for students, for college students like yourself. So keeping in mind that the seminars are 3 to 4 days long, and I keep stressing that because if you're going to volunteer for the seminar, we hope that you can do it the entire time. But if you're going to be a facilitator, it's really important to know that. We can really use you and your fellow PSP members as facilitators, and this is the most immersive position you can have at HOBY. We especially need those with experience with youth. So if you have younger siblings, if you're outgoing, if you find it easy to relate to others, or if your chosen profession will be working with youth, this position is for you. So in our post-seminar surveys, students routinely mention how much they loved their small groups and how meaningful it was to have deep discussions in their small groups. So as a facilitator, you have a lot of influence on the student ambassador's experience. A facilitator is akin to a camp counselor, right? So you'll be in charge of a small group of sophomore students for the entire weekend. They practically never leave your site. So you'll be in charge of a small group, approximately 10, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on how large the seminar is. You'll facilitate small group discussions and ensure that the students are at the designated locations at the appropriate time. There is training before the seminar and during the seminar. So as it goes along, you'll be coached and you'll be helped out. So there's always a lot of support for our facilitators. And I know many college students are under 21. So if you're not quite 21 yet, please consider being a junior facilitator, or an associate facilitator is what we call them. So it's only for legal reasons that our facilitators be 21 and over, but there's no reason you can't have the same positive experience as a junior facilitator. So if you know someone 21 and older who would be a great facilitator, invite them to volunteer. They don't have to be from PSP. It could just be a friend from home or a friend locally that you have. Junior facilitators are often teamed up directly with the facilitator, so it may be a great opportunity for you and a friend or a relative to volunteer together. I kind of mentioned some of the tasks, but being a facilitator also involves leading discussions by asking questions or making sure that students eat or stay focused or have a positive attitude. But it can also involve performing bed checks and ensuring everyone has a chance to share. So you'll really be in charge of a small group. And as I mentioned, if you want to directly influence or impact the student, this is the position for you. I know I'm making a really strong pitch for that, but we can really use college students because we love having college students as facilitators just because you guys are closer in age to our students and they really look up to college students and they might have a lot of questions about college and what you're going through and they really feel like they can relate to you. So that's why I'm really mentioning that position. So the next thing is our operations team, and the time requirement is the days during the seminar. So the operations team is the backbone of our seminar. So if you're on the shy side, the ops team might be the right fit for you. They work behind the scenes to ensure the seminar runs smoothly. It's hard work, so you make sure the facilitators have what they need to lead their group, that the speakers are at the right location and have the right resources to do their presentation, and you make sure the ambassadors have a great experience by having everything ready for them. So their rooms, the workshops, the meals. You also get to work with many other HOBY volunteers and you get free meals, so it's a win-win. Okay, at the minimum, I invite you all to be there on the first day of the seminar as part of the welcome team. So depending on how large the seminar is, some have up to 300 students. They're going to need a village to get everyone situated and the program running on time. So if you imagine 300 students coming to a seminar and then they all come with a parent, so that's 600 people right there. We want to make sure that everyone is welcomed, everyone feels comfortable. For the parents and for the students, this is their first time being away from home. And some parents drive 4 hours, 6 hours from 6 hours away to drop off their child. So we want to make sure that we have a great welcome team that's there to make them feel comfortable and to make sure that they know where they're going and where their kids are going to be when they leave their kids there for the weekend. So check-in is typically on a Thursday or Friday afternoon, and there will be lost students and parents who will need a smiling face to help them at check-in, get them to their dorms, and introduce them to their small groups. So check-in typically lasts a couple of hours since students come from all across the state. So I highly recommend that you join the opening session to learn more about HOBY and what the weekend is, or what the weekend will be like for students, and it's just a very exciting time. So if you ever wanted to learn about HOBY or just wanted to kind of get your feet wet and be part of HOBY and kind of find out more what it's about, then definitely come for the welcome. Did any questions pop up?
No questions so far.
Okay, great. So you want to volunteer, now what? The first thing you need to do is complete the volunteer application. And I'm hoping you're so pumped that you want to volunteer now. So I'm going to walk you through the volunteer application process. Okay. So you're going to visit the page that's linked to the bottom of this webinar. When you visit this page, complete a new volunteer application, with the exception of those who have volunteered in the past. And for those who have volunteered before, if you need your username and password, please request it at hoby.org. You do have the same username and password throughout your HOBY volunteer career, so you want to make sure you keep that safe. When you complete the application, there's a section at the bottom for new volunteers. Okay, next. So the application is going to ask you for all the typical demographic information that you should be used to by now, your name, address, all that stuff. So I didn't include a screenshot here. Keep in mind that only items with an asterisk are required. So in the employment section, you can either leave it blank or you can mention that you're a student. When you reach the additional information section that's shown here, be sure to apply for the 2017-2018 program year. If you volunteered in the past or if you're a HOBY alum, be sure to include that information, and then make sure you check the box right there that says Phi Sigma Pi brother or alum. Okay, next. There's going to be a waiver. Go ahead and read that, and then you're going to click accept the agreement and then move on. The next step is pretty important. It's going to ask you to apply for a specific position. So you're going to click add a position and you're going to select the seminar. So as you saw from the map, many states have only one seminar, but if there's more than one seminar in your state, be sure you indicate which seminar you want to participate in, and then select a position. One of the positions that I provided hopefully has enticed you to become a volunteer. And then you're going to add that position and you're going to continue. Then you'll have the option to review all the information that you entered, and then you'll submit the application. Acceptance to volunteer is not immediate. So remember that this is an application. Each volunteer position has a two-step acceptance process. So it must be first approved by the LSC and then the DNP. And you'll receive an email confirmation when you've been approved and fully accepted to volunteer. Volunteers 21 and older who will work directly with students, like facilitators, will be required to complete a background check, and the volunteer team will be in contact with you on how to do that. Certain positions obtain access to HOBY's volunteer resource center called HOBY Online, and if you receive access, your username and password will be provided in the confirmation email. There is additional paperwork that must be signed, so there is a HOBY Code of Conduct. As I mentioned, there are background checks, and sometimes there are additional requirements, but those vary per state. So some states require Sarah mentioned at PA Central, you have to get access to the university. So there's just keep in mind that there may be additional paperwork for you to complete after you complete the online volunteer process. Okay, next slide. So I know I've been talking for half an hour now, and I wanted to make sure that I provided enough time for you guys to ask questions and everything. So instead of closing and making a case for how important it is for our youth to develop their leadership talents, or how important it is to empower youth to be the leaders of today, I'm just going to share 3 important quotes with you. Okay, I'm going to start with this one. So as we start a new year and you start prioritizing what's important in your life, consider this quote: help one another. There's no time like the present, and no present like the time. Okay. We rise by lifting others. And finally, nothing you do for children is ever wasted. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me and to learn more about HOBY. I look forward to answering any questions you might have.
I'm just going to give everyone about a minute here. If you have any questions, please type those into the box and I will read them to Sunshine.
And Sarah, if there are no questions, for those who have volunteered in the past, if you'd like to type in, a little bit about your experience or any helpful tips that you can give to people who are considering, feel free to share anything like that. I know I'm so thorough, so I doubt there's going to be any questions. But I'd love to take this opportunity for other people to share if they have anything to share.
I know something that I would add, definitely as a HOBY volunteer and an alum, one of the things I love is, getting folks involved with HOBY that haven't been. So I know there's many, many, many HOBY volunteers who haven't been connected with HOBY. So don't feel like you're walking into something or, not being a HOBY alum. We welcome you with open arms. Everyone's so positive and helpful. So don't let that discourage you from getting involved. Join the HOBY family. It's a great place to be. So we did have kind of a statement question from Corinne, and I apologize if I say your name wrong, but they said, thank you so much for sharing the opportunities with us. My chapter is super interested in volunteering and doing more.
Awesome.
Give it a couple more seconds too. And I just know, like what Sunshine mentioned with the special projects and the seminar planning committee, that's really how, like, the year after I went as an ambassador, I got involved with the planning committee. And it's a really great way that if you're not available that weekend, you can really help out with the logistical tasks in planning, a 4-day workshop. So if you really enjoy, working behind the scenes, know that you can send some emails and do some arranging. The seminar planning committee is a great place to start. Working with the recruitment team, if you're able to reach out to some schools or help arrange some speakers for the programming committee, that's all time that can be really, really helpful.
And I also want to mention that HOBY volunteers range in age. So we in our last training institute, our volunteer trainings, we recognize the volunteer who's been volunteering for HOBY for 35 years. And we always recognize volunteers, at their 10-year mark, 15, 20, 25, 30. And we have volunteers that have been with HOBY for a very long time. And the reason I mentioned that is that we love the diversity of our volunteers. So a lot of our volunteers end up being friends. We've had some HOBY weddings from people who've met at the seminar, but also that our HOBY volunteers are great resources for networking, for making new friends, connecting with the local community. So, you know, we have a great network of volunteers. We have 4,000 volunteers throughout the country, and 65% of our volunteers are actually HOBY alum. And I just wanted to throw in that stat because it shows that the students who've gone through our program really want to go back, and they do learn the lesson of the importance of giving back and the importance of volunteering your time.
Absolutely. We have a question from Casey. She asked, how far in advance did you register to volunteer for a seminar?
There is no time commit. I mean, there's no time limit. So there are some volunteers, sometimes, again, depending on the seminar, they're scrambling for volunteers up until the day before or 2 days before to help out on site. So if you're not sure about your time commitment yet, then yes, feel free to wait and, you know, contact them closer to the seminar date and just let them know. They can really, I know that they can always use junior facilitators and people on the operations team. So if that, if your concern is you don't know what your semester is going to be like yet, then yes, then hold off. I would suggest, you know, if you actually do decide to volunteer, just make sure that you follow through.
Okay. So I think we're going to just move forward here. I know we have a final kind of interactive part we would like you to do. So our next steps, you know, I definitely encourage you to share this information with your chapter. We are recording this webinar, so that way it can be on our YouTube channel to reference for later. So definitely share the information. If people are interested in your chapter, send them the link or share, you know, the kind of responsibilities that Sunshine went through. Definitely complete that volunteer application if you are interested. You know, as Sunshine mentioned, it does get submitted to the HOBY volunteers who then go through it. So I know she recommended, you know, if you don't hear anything in about 3 to 4 weeks, feel free to follow up with them. And as well, you can always email either Sunshine or myself, and we can help you get connected. And then finally, just get involved and give back. As mentioned, you know, there's many ways to get involved with HOBY. You know, even if it's a matter of helping to start with gift in kind, if you know a company that can donate folders or a company that can donate pens, you know, that's a great way to start getting involved and giving back in many different levels. So if this year's not a great year for you, do something small and then try to do something bigger next year.
And I'm just going to piggyback on that. So I know that in this webinar I talked a lot about volunteer positions, individual ways that you can get involved, but you can also get involved as a chapter by doing HOBY hugs or doing donations drives. But I suggest reaching out to the volunteer team first before performing or doing any fundraising or donations drives, just because each seminar should have a wish list of the items that they need. Please try to obtain a wish list from the LSC and see what your seminar can provide. Sometimes they need, you know, 300 binders, and so maybe you have a connection at Staples or Office Depot. They're always needing supplies, and honestly, a lot of our volunteers provide for the seminar, so not only are they volunteering, but they're also providing using their own resources. So any way you can help out, think of creative ways that you guys can help out. If you guys can get some gift cards or something like that. So there's always ways for you guys to help out as a chapter and as individuals. Thank you.
So the last thing we'd like you to do is in the chat box, if you can, you know, hopefully you're excited, you have some ideas, you know, going through your mind. So if you can just type in there, you know, which volunteer position you're interested in, and then if you want to include, you know, what state you would be interested in volunteering for, we can help get you connected to the volunteers in that area. So type those into that chat box, and we will read some off.
Yes, please take the time to write your name, write the position and the seminar that you're interested in. This way, you don't have to, reach out to the local volunteers if you have some questions specific to their seminar. If you type your name in, or just the seminar and your name and contact information, I'll definitely connect you with the local team so that you don't have to reach out to them. Okay. So I just want to take the time to say thank you to everybody. I know I've been doing these webinar, but they're always these volunteer HOBY webinars, and they're always fun, and I love sharing about HOBY. I hope that my enthusiasm and passion comes through, and I hope I've inspired you guys to become involved.
Great. We had Brianna come through, and she said she would love to get involved with a state seminar in Pennsylvania. So I can definitely help you out there, depending where you are. I personally am involved with the Central Pennsylvania seminar. So basically kind of between Lancaster out into kind of about Pittsburgh and then straight up the states. So definitely. Corrine,
Awesome.
again, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, Corrine, said, hoping to get the whole chapter involved, but happy to volunteer by myself as well. We're out of Lock Haven, PA, and would love to be a facilitator.
Yay! Exciting. Oh, that's so fun. Being a facilitator is a lot of work, but it's really, really rewarding, and it's just a lot of fun to be so involved with the students on that kind of deep and personal level.
And then we have Casey, who said she'd like to be involved with operations or a facilitator.
Cool. Thank you guys for sharing. I'll get all this information that you've typed in. I'll get it from Sarah, and then I'll be sure to connect you guys with the team and get the ball rolling that way.
Great. Thank you all again so much for attending today's Volunteering for HOBY webinar. Again, we will be sending this recording out in a follow-up email along with links and resources to items that we discussed. If you have any questions or would like to follow up, please feel free to contact Sunshine. Her email is listed there, as well as me if you'd like at hobby@phismhigh.org. And with that, that concludes today's webinar. Thank you all so much. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, everybody.